Today's Tuesday, September 3rd, 2022. It's about 1:10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hey friends, it's Dennis Nappy II here, and I'm getting ready to review my world events predictions using remote viewing for the month of September 2022. My session was completed at the end of August 2022. Again, looking ahead to see what headlines are going to pop up. I'm also going to review my feedback for last month, predictions I did in July, looking ahead to the month of August. I have mixed feelings on my data for August. I had right off the bat, I'd say an amazing hit that I'll show you in a minute. And the rest of my data, I'm not so sold on. And that happens sometimes remote viewing. I have a lot of thoughts that come from when I have an off month. Makes me think about a lot of things. So I'll share some of those thoughts as well as I go through that. Quick commercial though. Last month, or like a couple weeks ago, actually, which was last month, I just released my new book. And it's called The Hive, The Virus, the Infected, and the Immune. It's available on Amazon. You can find it at sixthsensemedia.net/hive. I'll have links below to give you more information on it. This beautiful cover here was designed by my good friend, my teacher, my crypto viewing partner in crime, Daz Smith. He's an amazingly talented graphic artist. So thank you to Daz for designing the cover. But it's a fun read. It's a quick read. Looking at, what would happen if the nanobots got in our brains. That basically is the premise of it. So check it out. Let me know what you think. It's still at an extremely discounted price right now, celebrating the launch of this project. See if you can spot where my influences came from for this story. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, let's take a look at my session here. Let's do my feedback first from August. Okay. Feedback, August 2022. So when I started my session, and let me give a caveat here. Last month, I targeted the website Unknown Country because I was getting, again, that overwhelmed feeling of just noise and what the heck's going on. It was getting me too much for me. I'm going to stop my share for a minute. I want to talk about this. It got a little bit overwhelming. I was picking up some anxiety and things from constantly then having, when you do world events in general, it's like, hey, let me close my eyes and let me see what's going to come back to me. So then I found myself regularly checking Drudge Report and other mainstream news media, trying to figure out if, I had any hits, I had any target contact, what my feedback was there. Which meant I was spending a lot more time reading the news. And my thoughts on the news right now is that it's a signal. It's a thought, almost like a thought virus. And it sucks you in and it shapes the way we think and view the world. And it interferes with my own thought processes and intuition. So I actually struggle a lot with doing world events sessions. I think it's a great learning opportunity. It's highly entertaining. It's exciting when you get it right. But there's a toll that I guess you pay, at least for me, in my limited experience that I'm working through, having that impact of having to stay connected to the news and the media, which is something that I'm trying very hard to stay away from. So it's tough. So my solution to that was, well, I'm not going to target the Drudge Report. I'm not going to target just general media. I'm going to look at unknowncountry.com because that website doesn't give me anxiety. I enjoy the writing style. It's Whitley Strieber's website and their approach to reporting things in the news. And they're very open-minded, obviously. So I targeted 4 dates for this month moving forward, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. However, so with that in mind, I said I'm going to target Drudge Report I was going to look at September 1st. I was going to look at the 1st, the 15th, and the 28th, I think are the dates that I picked that I was going to look at. And I was going to look at what are the most recent story on Unknown Country as of those dates. And then I was trying to collect data on whatever those stories were. Before I jumped into my actual session, though, I got hit with an idea and I recorded that. And this session was completed on July 26, 2022. I do have it timestamped in certain areas, but let me show you what that initial blip was that I got. And this was pretty cool. Okay, so I sit down and do my session, and before I get into my first ideogram and moving to the targeted date, I get this idea in my head, this flash in my mind, and I explored it a little bit, and I had this plane lying on the ground Obviously, you're seeing the feedback on the same page right here. So there was I did this on the 26th. On the 28th is when I got my feedback. 2 days after this was in July. Terror as Delta plane forced to U-turn mid-Atlantic over fuel emergency. And so what I had here was an airplane on the ground that said, we found them. But then down here I wrote, out of fuel. I had plane crash, flat, plane event, horizon, whimsical. And then over here in the upper right-hand corner, you can see I wrote the word Delta. So that's the premise of it. And then I had some other, lower level data, shaking, shuddering, were going down, but they were calm about it. So again, the headline here telling us that Delta Airlines ran out of fuel. They had an issue with their fuel, and they had to turn around and make somewhat of an emergency landing. So that was a pretty cool hit. Definitely can't deny that one there. And then I feel the rest of the month was not as strong, but I'll go through. I'm going to provide what I think is just some feedback here, but I want to be quite clear. I am not trying to justify the rest of my data as hits. I think I had an off month. With that being said, I'm curious as to why. All right. So looking at the Unknown Country website now, I had a whole lot of data about some things. And this is the article that was posted on August 1st. A new level of quantum computing, a 9,000-year-old computer problem solved in just 36 microseconds. I had this sketch at the end of my first event here, tall building structure, ornate common research lab. So this I was interpreting as a building. I think I got the basic gestalts of this quantum computer here and drew it like this. However, the main theme of that session that I did was an event or story about consciousness, afterlife, altered states, OOBEs, etc., as if a story is released in the news, and this article gives supporting or related accounts. So most of my data was all about altered states and shamans. I could sit here and try to creatively connect to, well, maybe this is how I'm interpreting the quantum computer. And maybe that's what my conscious mind did. However, I would say that this data is not, I would not consider this a hit. I'm wondering if that's what my mind did, because this is a foreign concept to me, talking about out-of-body experiences and consciousness. And we're talking about a quantum computer and how it's making, solving problems faster than, whatever they thought was possible. Maybe we can make that stretch, but I don't think my data is detailed enough to make the argument, hey, you nailed this. So, but that's weird. And then, yeah, this is just more about the article. You can go back and check it out online. So then I had this one here. I had the drawing of a UFO. I had it over an urban area, object above an urban area witnessed by life. Something comes down from the object. Is it energy? This is a story. Again, this appeared on August 18th. My target date was August 15th. Let me be clear about that first. On August 15th, Unknown Country had a story about the evolution of man changing our voice boxes changed over time so we could communicate better with speech compared to primates. Nothing to do with this story here. But in looking at this photograph here, it's a UFO and a UFO, but I think that's where it stops, because I had this over an urban area. This article is about an anonymous photo that was submitted in the Scottish Highlands while people were hiking, and the photo went missing for however many decades. Nick Pope contributed to some of this story, and now it's resurfaced, and they're saying, yep, this in fact is authentic, this image here. It's a real craft. But this obviously is not over an urban area, so there's no beam coming down as far as I can see. So again, I think I had maybe UFO to a UFO, but what's curious is other viewers that I work with had a UFO story. So maybe we're both just wrong, or maybe there's a story I missed. So that wasn't through Unknown Country. That's highly possible as well. All right. This is interesting. Now, maybe this is the UFO story, but this is for my August 28th story, or my August 28th prediction. We have Congress admits that some UAPs are not man-made and are a national security threat that is expanding exponentially. Now, it's going to be very hard for me to not comment on the content of that story, because I think that's well worth a discussion. And if I can get behind the mic for a podcast soon, I would love to do a deep dive on this story. With that being said, I had a story, I had data here looking at structures on the moon. So they don't mention structures on the moon. All they mention is that these craft are not man-made, and they are developing basically a unit that will investigate UAPs that are believed to be of non-human origins. The article talks about in the event they're investigating a UAP and they determine, yep, this is a foreign adversary, they're to then take that information and turn it over to the appropriate investigating authority. And this unit's only going to investigate potentially non-human craft, which is freaking fascinating to me. It's amazing, but maybe we could talk more on that on a podcast. So those are my sessions there. Pretty off month. I'm not trying not to let the ego get hit too hard on that. And I'm sure I could go through and justify, oh, maybe this, maybe that, but it just gets me wondering too about the future, because I felt I had pretty good sessions last month. Where is that information coming from? Is that pure imagination? Are those stories reported somewhere else? And is there just so much noise out there? By me targeting unknown country, these things are more fascinating to me. I had other data points in there looking at some financial challenges, and I had something about an iconic monument either being taken down or symbolically being taken down, and then looked like political leaders on steps. And the overall theme I had was kind of a turnover or collapse of a nation, really. That has not come true, not at this point in time. And I did see other viewers with similar data on that. So with that story, because I went, at the end of my session, I said, what else is out there beyond unknown country? With that story in mind, I'm wondering, it could be just my imagination, because this is where my worldview comes into play. Hey, what's happening in the world, and some of the work I do with crypto viewing. Or maybe I'm seeing an actual event, and it's just a big event, and I'm just catching it early. So I do wonder if sometimes if there's a big enough ripple in the psychic ether over time, that catches your attention, and you may be trying to target 30 days out, but you may come into 60 days out or 90 days out. I don't know. The jury's out for me on that one so far. Maybe I'm just trying to justify having more target contact. I also wonder if by viewing the future and producing that data, if the future changes, if it changes the future and that impacts your data, which is a paradox type of thinking you can get into. But these are questions as someone who's learning remote viewing and experiencing remote viewing. These are questions that come to my mind, and things that, it'll be fun over the next, few years of my life trying to explore and figure out as this journey develops for me. I've been thinking a lot about remote viewing, and I know there's some debate in the remote viewing community as to what is actually happening when you remote view. Meaning, are you actually going there, or are you getting just data about a particular event? I've talked to some viewers who say they're actually there, they're actually witnessing the event, and if that's the case, then that might lead to the ability to change things, past, present, or future that you're viewing. That's a whole other discussion that I'm not going to talk about right now because I don't know enough about it. But my thoughts on it are, or I'd say based on my experience, and I want to be clear, I'm new, and the flavor of my data at times is really clear and good, but I don't have enough consistent experience with that really solid target contact where I can speak as an authority. So I'm speaking as an explorer with limited experience, and here's my perceptions as of now. So with that being said, I sometimes feel like I'm running a big query through a large database. You have to ask the right questions to get the answers that you're looking for. That comes from tasking, and that comes from the movements that you give yourself when you're in state, when you're attacking a target or looking for data on a target. How are you going to move? What are you going to prompt yourself to look at? How are you going to prompt yourself to look at? How are you going to position yourself? Or if you remember when databases first came out with computers, I remember taking courses on learning how to query. Like now you just type anything in Google and AI kind of takes over. Um, but I'm wondering if with your intent and your focus, you're learning how to access this giant database. And maybe we're viewing the future because maybe the future has already happened, or maybe we're viewing a probability of outcomes based on where we are presently in time. So which would mean that the future is constantly changing, which would also mean that if that's the case, then we have the potential to change the future if we bring information back. But I don't know for sure. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Okay. I'll get off that thread right now. I know we're here really to look at what did I see for the future for the month of September. Now, here's some more caveats here. Look, the last month, the mental state I've been in, it's been very stressed. I'm back at work. For those of you that know me, I'm in education. I'm an administrator, and life's been busy. The constant demand in the job that I have, and this isn't a complaint at all, but I have a lot of days I come home and I have like decision fatigue because all day long I'm responding to student challenges, staff challenges, and trying to support our kids and solve problems and put out fires. And so it's mentally exhausting. So I feel such a drain that I know sometimes I lose that contact with my own intuitive feel. When my focus and energy isn't being constantly pulled, I'm able to connect and expand and ponder and see a whole bunch of other things through my intuitive processes. I find it a lot harder when I'm so beat down with work. And I think it's a reflection of society as a whole, of what's going on in the world right now. We're so focused and pulled in so many directions, we have that hard time kind of quieting our minds, going within and gathering that data out there. So I still managed to do a session, and this session was a last minute decision. When I say last minute, I literally decided I am not going to do world events this month because of all the stress that I'm feeling, and because I felt September was a pretty front-loaded month from other things that I've been working on, and I felt I'm not going to do the session. So I sat down one night and I was just surfing the internet, and all of a sudden I thought I should do a session. I just got hit with inspiration. I said, I'm going to go with it. So this is the result of the session I did. I did not target unknown country. I just went out and saw what was out there in the psychic ether. And I noticed my data came through a little bit differently, a little bit more concise and compact, where before I get a whole bunch of low-level data and it builds and builds and builds. I find that now I'm just kind of putting like almost just a headline and a picture. There's still some low-level data in there, but I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a different experience for me. So let's take a look at this. I feel like I'm rambling a lot today, guys, but let's go. Let's take a look. All right. Again, this was last minute. I labeled it Target 2022-0901, September 2022 world events. Viewer will describe the major world events that happened in September 2022 and are reported by the media in September of 2022. So I give myself no restrictions, no caveats, just open what's out there, what's coming through. All right. So as I explained, I felt heavily front-loaded by a lot of things going on in the world and things, through my work in crypto viewing. So I thought, can I do an honest session here, given all the front-loaded things that I have? So I disclosed some of that on the first page there. I wrote it down. And then I moved into my session here. So right away, I didn't even do an ideogram here. As I got started here, I jumped into it and I saw a burning building, anxiety, fear, streets, rivers, burning, flames, fire. And I wrote the word downtown. Then I got Dallas or Fort Worth, Rio Grande. These are just AOLs, and I have not a great track record with pulling locations. And then after I sketched this, I had heat and pulsing with this fire here. After I sketched this and drew the fire, I had a glimpse of a body falling out of the building. And I labeled this here 9/11 field. And I wrote, count the falling body as a 9/11 AOL, which is an analytical overlay. It's your conscious mind's best guess here. So I start thinking, okay, maybe they're just going to run a story from 9/11. And so those horrific images that I hate to look at of people falling out of the towers or jumping out of the towers. But before I got the 9/11 thought process in my head, I did see a building burning on fire. Now, I know there was just a big fire in New York City yesterday. Maybe this is it. I mean, I'll count it as a hit, but we'll see. So I'll follow up with that at the end of the month. All right. Then I moved to the next event, AOL's Mars, Martian Landscape, Luna. And then we move forward past the low level. Let's disregard the Mars stuff right now. That was just my AOLs as I'm trying to find my way through whatever I was getting here with this ideogram. I had life moving through a structure, and it was seen on a black and white monitor. It had an AOL. It just reminded me of a scene, like if you look at the old Columbine videos. I'm not saying this is a school shooting. I don't know what it was, but then I started getting more data of a structure that was moving, like a train or an earthquake. And I saw a man with a hat and kind of a dark colored vest on. There was like a pole here, and he was getting ready to move through a doorway, but everything was shaking. I don't know if it was a guy on like a surveillance video and he's on the train was shaking, and he's trying to get through the door, or if it was some kind of an earthquake, but it had an aggressive feel. Was he chasing somebody? Was he running away? Was he searching? What was the main purpose? Movement and energetics, and this is surreal. So I only took limited amount of data on this session. I'm going to go with, if anything, this is maybe an earthquake. That's my best analytical guess here, but I don't know. All right, and then describing the movement, I had Coliseum as an AOL. I just had energetics like downward pressure and then radiating outwards. This could be a structure into the ground and the ground radiating outwards. All right, and then I moved on. Event 3. Lots of cold, hungry, tired, dirty faces. I saw children. They were just dirty faces. They were hungry, feed us. They were stuck, trapped. They were healthy, but they were lost and forgotten. Somebody was looking down at them. Are they in a shipping container, I wondered. Lost, trapped, stolen. They survived. There's more to this story that won't be reported. And then I moved on. Event 4. Again, motion and a structure here. The motion was like clouds of smoke. I heard train sounds here in this structure. Okay, and here we go. I had people coming out. It was toxic, coughing, noxious. I don't know if I spelled that right. And black smoke. I had the word gas. This guy over here on the left was vomiting. This guy was sneezing. I had an Asian, China, Singapore. I underlined Singapore. Viral, toxic. Were they sick? What's eroded here? In a structure, running out, gasping, coughing, and sneezing, dirty and defeated, sitting on sidewalks and tired and defeated. Sadness, a sad Asian man in a tragedy. Lost fear and anxiety. It could have been worse. Now, this story very well could be connected to this story as well. Maybe these people are all underground or under a structure that's smoky and smoggy, and they all come running out. I don't know. This is me still trying to learn to navigate dealing with a world events type of scenario, because when you do it like this, a typical target, you're just going through and you're on one target based on your tasking. With world events, I could do multiple full sessions on each event. And instead, you're just trying to pull bits of data and make yourself a headline that summarizes the entire news story. So maybe these are 2 for 1. I honestly don't know. All right. Event 5. Let's clear this out of the way, I said. And I wrote down Hiroshima. Listen, I want to be clear. I don't think we're going to have a nuclear bomb this month. But what it was going through my mind, and this could be front-loaded stuff, was that there are a lot of articles coming out of Ukraine about the nuclear plant. So those thoughts have been on my mind ahead of time. So maybe this was it. I do know that when I moved to the next event, what I saw was a bright flash that looked like this. But again, please don't read too much into that, because I also, then I start going through the session or this data point, propaganda, aftermath, more stories about nuclear consequences, showing historical footage to implant in the collective unconscious. This is a month to ramp up the fear. So I've seen a couple stories where I'm like, that's weird that they're talking about that. Why now? Are they trying to scare us even more? So maybe that's where that's coming from. All right. Event 6. I had Harry and the Princess, love bug, romance. It seemed like a positive story. It was a feel-good moment. A love story on the red carpet. And a little bit further, what was the visual I got? Got a man and a woman in the back of a car. Yes, that's a car, friends. It's a horrible-looking vehicle. She was matronly. There was life. She was pregnant. Is it the Duchess royalty? Is it in New York? A motorcade and an announcement. And I had an AOL of happiness. The people will like this story. Okay. Then I had this here. I call this event 7. And even though I had this cloud over structures here, and I had an AOL of Los Angeles or somewhere in the West or Southwest, which again, I'm not so great at picking locations, I had darkness. The day the rain stopped. A river runs through it, I wrote. Anxiety. It was quiet. People were indoors. Heat wave. Escape the heat wave. Drought, dehydration. Scary for some. So this one is the day the rain stopped. So look for a story about a drought or something. I don't know. Again, that I don't think it takes remote viewing to predict something like that, right? And that's the end of my session there. So I don't know. I mean, based on last month, my confidence, that's the word I'm looking for, is a little bit weaker with my world events sessions. I've also had some success with some other private projects that I've been working on. So I guess my confidence is still exists at least, but world events, they're tough for me. I struggle with, do I want to keep doing this experiment? I truly enjoy my interactions with all of you out there, sharing this work and hearing your thoughts and feedback and words of encouragement, and even sharing my misses, because that's part of my journey, part of my learning experience. What am I going to learn from last month? All those misses that I had, it inspired those questions for me. Well, can the future change by looking at it? What am I looking at? Is it too difficult to narrow it down to a particular website and across a span of 3 days? I don't know. Those are things that I need to continue to analyze and engage with the feedback. Or maybe just because I've been so stressed out the last month, maybe my imagination and all my stress and all my fears are coming through in my remote viewing session. I do a monthly session, a personal session for myself, basically just looking at my future consciousness, asking, what do I need to know for me? And that's where I find a lot of my fears, anxieties, and wants come through also. So since I was feeling stressed coming into the world event session, maybe I'm tapping into some stuff that's just in my head. So maybe I need to be cautious in how I'm working those personal sessions as well, because maybe it's making different pathways and connections to different part of my brain or different access points for data. I don't know. But these are all the things that I think about as I'm going through this learning experience. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, on my data itself, and any other thoughts you have on kind of where things are going. Thank you so very much for watching and for your continued support. If you're looking for some entertainment in the world of fiction that may blur the line, check out The Hive, the virus, the infected, and the immune. Again, it's sixthsensemedia.net/hive. It was a really fun project to work on, so I'm thankful to have it out there, and that's going to wrap it up, my friends. So thank you again so much for your continued support. Dennis Nappy II here with Sixth Sense Media. Remember to keep an open mind, never stop questioning, and let your intuition be your guide. Thanks.